Member for Oldbridge East.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute on an important matter before us today in the House, namely to debate a motion for the adoption of a report on the very important issue of local government reform, the work of a joint select committee appointed to consider and report on the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Bill 2020. Madam Speaker, like the member for Laventille West before me, it was not my intention to speak in this debate. But unlike the member, I'm quite prepared with a few points to make. Madam Speaker, the matters before us are important matters in the context of reform, in the context of development, since they touch and concern every single citizen, whether you're a politician, doctor, lawyer, engineer, in an elementary occupation. We all grieve and seek the deliverance of basic utilities to make our lives more comfortable, peaceful, and so on. Madam Speaker, I've had the opportunity to read and study in some detail the report before us, and I've also had the additional opportunity to read the contributions made by several members of the House in this debate in the recent past. And today I would take the few minutes that are available to me to comment on presentations made particularly by the member for Diego Martin Northeast, the Minister of Finance, who plays a pivotal role in any new system of local government representation, and also the member, I believe, for Port of Spain South, who spoke on this bill as well. I did study in some detail their presentation and would like to raise a few issues emanating from that, and also to respond very briefly to the member before me, Laventille West. Madam Speaker, I thank you so much for the timely intervention of taking a break for lunch and refreshment. It is very difficult when your stomach is churning after such a presentation to continue with business as usual. I think maybe it should be a standing order recommendation for amending the standing orders. So anytime the member for Laventille West speak, we take a break. But that would be for the House Committee. Madam Speaker, the matter I want to raise is a general matter. When the member for Port of Spain North East spoke, the member spoke with some typical passion, beat his chest about this reform process and how important it was, and culminating in years of work. And the member himself was a minister of local government between 1993 and 1995, more or less. And Madam Speaker, I also come to the podium with some experience in both government and opposition, having been elected almost 21 years ago. And I was stopping for the desk thumping there. And having interfaced with local government representatives, chairmen, mayors, and so on for 21 years, I consider I'm not battered, but I consider myself well experienced to speak on the reality that members of parliament and ministers of government face in dealing with local government issues. The member for Port of Spain Northeast cried that the debate, in his opinion, lacked intellectual depth. I don't know if he was reflecting on his colleagues on his side, but the debate lacked intellectual content, and we were not speaking to some of the policy issues and the deeper issues. And of course, he derided, in his customary way, members opposite and so on, and I don't wish to go into that direction, as you know. Madam Speaker, I just want to make an introductory point. This package presents us with the amendments that suggest that we will have a creature of an executive council and executive leadership in municipal corporations. Akin, in a sense, to the cabinet system of government, where you have a cabinet, which is the executive, you have a parliament, where we are here, that is the legislature, and the cabinet emanates from the legislature. So it is akin to that. But why is there the assumption that the cabinet system works? Why is that assumption given? In the dialogue, in the narrative of the member for Diego Martin Northeast, he beat his chest and said we are now having a system like what we have in central government with an executive council, as if the cabinet system works. But the same people who cannot get the cabinet system to deliver goods and services, how will they get the local government system to deliver that? And we ought to think about that, because there are weaknesses of the cabinet system. Whether it's bureaucracy, whether it is corruption, whether it is representation, those weaknesses will find itself in the executive council model as well. If you don't deal with the root cause of it, procurement, for example, if you don't deal with streamlining administrative structures and so on, you are just going to create a 14 mini cabinet that will have the same problem that the cabinet at the national level has. Because the member for Diego Martin Northeast spoke in his statement. He says, you know, over the years we have had problems where MPs and councillors, they cannot work with chief executive officers. They have problems with the engineers. They have problems with public health inspectors, etc., etc. The nuts and bolts of local government management. It is the same principle. You ministers have challenges with permanent secretaries, with directors, with managers in their ministry, with state board chairmen and so on. So those are problems that, you know, that face us at every level of governance. But the bill and the report don't deal with that. It just says we introduce an executive council, just like cabinet, so feel happy. Madam Speaker, the other point, my first point is that an executive council doesn't mean mirrored after the cabinet, don't mean that that will be successful. Because there are many people in this country who believe that the cabinet system is in need of reform. The other point I wish to make, to respond to this thirst of the member for Diego Martin Northeast for some intellectual consideration on issues, to reflect on former Prime Minister Patrick Manning and his thinking on some of these matters, because there was a reference to former local government minister, Mrs. Hazel Manning, and the work she did for several years in terms of consultation and local government policy issues and so on. The former Prime Minister, Mr. Manning, Patrick Manning, had a certain thought process when as it relates to some of these issues. I want to share one issue. Unless I am mistaken, Madam Speaker, and something may have passed me by in those years I talk about, 21 years, this is the first attempt, and the member for Diego Martin Northeast said it in his statement. He says, we are passing this without the opposition. And today, the member for St. Joseph says, why should 19 people hold back 1.4 million when Diego Martin Northeast said, we don't need all you. We don't need you. We're passing it as a simple majority. Now, people will believe it's 22 keeping back 1.4 million, but that's another story. But, Madam Speaker, unless something passed me, this is the first attempt to make full-time politicians. Now, that's an interesting thing, because given our Westminster British parliamentary upbringing, given the historic structure, nature of post-colonial administrations and so on, members of parliament and councillors were always meant to be part-time. Now, why was that so? I am not saying I'm in support of that. I'm saying let us understand the reasons why it was so, to understand why we are changing or why we may need to change. Because it was felt that apart from someone being a minister of government and having a full-time job as a minister of government, members of parliament, in the British parliament, unless I'm mistaken, that number is how much? 500 people or so. They have a huge parliament, of course. In India, I don't know how much thousands of members they may have and so on. It was felt that the other part of the parliament outside of the cabinet should have been men and women who bring to bear experiences of life, of different professions. So when you come to the House to debate and to speak to policy which was really the house. You bring your experience as a barrister, as a landowner, as a dentist, as a doctor. So you bring that experience to bear in your deliberations. Likewise, in local government environment, when you come to the council, you bring whatever experiences you would have. You may be a pastor, a pundit, an imam, and so on. You bring experience. You may be a business person. You may be a trade union representative. You bring that experience from your work to bear on deliberations, on policy, on program. But bringing full-time politicians now means not solely, but in some cases, you are creating a profession called politician. Because if someone joins at the age of 23, because according to the law, you can be elected from a young age, 18 years. In the Senate, I think it's 25, but here, 18. So if you come to the local government, and we are about local government, Madam Speaker, if you come to local government at 19, 20 years, you cannot practice as an engineer. You cannot work as a doctor. You cannot work as an attorney. You cannot work as something else, which experience we felt could help. Now, I am not saying, Madam Speaker, necessarily this is good or bad. I'm saying that that is the effect, the consequence of this, is that you may not have the mix of experiences that you need, because at the age of 20 years, 22 years, where you are legally entitled to hold office, you will not have the years of experience working in different areas in life to bring to bear that experience. And this is the first time I think they're treading on this. Mr. Manning, when confronted with this issue, was of the belief that Parliament should have persons who are part-time, particularly if you're in opposition, that you work and you come to Parliament. And this is why, historically, Madam Speaker, unless somebody has some other reasons, Parliament was always in the afternoon, so that you'll do your practice and your work in the morning, and in the afternoon you will journey to discuss the people's business. And you would work every other day. Now, given the nature of the evolution of government and the complexity of bureaucracies and the broadening of responsibility, Parliament now has enormous committees that meet during the week, likewise local government. In local government, Madam Speaker, they have several committees that require persons to be attending not only on their quote-unquote statutory meeting, but their committee system and so on is in some cases quite sophisticated. So we come to this full-time occupation. But I just put it on the table because full-time occupation means that you may well have a situation where persons who have experience, accounting persons who have experiences in all walks of life may not be elected. And then you will have to get that type of expertise in through advisory services and consultancy and so on and so forth. So it is just an issue I raised. But having understood the demands of this office and the need, we also understand what we're doing. Madam Speaker, the speaker before me regrettably had a preoccupation with certain words which I think we quite rightly stood on and in some cases, Madam Speaker, ruled on. So I don't want to repeat those words in my speaking here, but only to say that sometimes the member for Laventille West worries me by that disturbing pathology. But I would say no more on that. Madam Speaker, I would have thought the member for Laventille West, being the worthy Minister of National Security, would have spoken to the issues of municipal police in the local government context. Clearly, crime is a grave matter, not only in the city and so on, but in local communities. In rural communities, in the towns, the villages, crime is rampant. And you would expect a worthy Minister of National Security to speak to that issue. How does this report, the provisions, bring greater security? And clearly, there must be an integration, both in institutional and administrative, between your municipal police and your central law enforcement infrastructure. There's a law enforcement infrastructure in the country that has to be properly integrated for administration and institutional sharing between municipal police and the central government. Because it cannot be that municipal police role is just to walk around with councillor and mayor and chairman like bodyguard. That clearly can't be the objective of municipal police alone. It has to be to work with central agencies and so on to protect citizens in their communities. And local government reform should do that, protect citizens. But the minister, of course, chose not to speak about that, but was very concerned with the Siparia market. He's concerned with all things Siparia, but the Siparia market. Madam Speaker, since the minister raised that issue, I will just respond by looking at a Guardian a story of Wednesday, August 8, 2012. And the headline is 56 million to upgrade penal and Siparia markets. Today, the member gave the impression as if $56 million was for one market. And according to him, we didn't see value for money. How would he see value for money? What is his qualification to inspect a market? What is his qualification? After 7 years, you have not had any investigation. You have not handed the police any documents. You have not fostered any investigation onto the police. And you come today to say $56 million upgrade for one market when it is two. And Madam Speaker, it is not my intention to read the entire article, but to cite it and say that over the penal market, it was $6 million alone. And in Siparia, they built a brand new market, multi-story market. But you hear the minister today, and this, this morbid obsession with SIS and so on. Today, the SIS is before, to our knowledge, the SIS is before no police authority investigating nothing. 7 years later. Unlike other companies that are before the police, we are told. But the SIS is not. But the minister will speak, the member for Laventille West, as if there was some criminal wrongdoing. We didn't get value for money. It was two markets. And to build an entire new 6-story market was the $50 million. And then $6 million for the penal market upgrade. And they were complaining at that time that persons were stealing produce. Here what they were dealing with, stealing produce. When you go in your land, you work day and night, and you come to the market, people thieving your goods, so to speak. They were complaining about they don't have toilet facilities at the market for customers and persons who go there to purchase. They were complaining about staircase. They were complaining about lighting. They were complaining about all of those things. And the People's Partnership dealt with it that way. Madam Speaker, we were proud during our years 2010 to 2015, I believe under Minister Chandra Sharma, we had facilities extended to councillors for office, for better conditions of work, for staff. And today, to hear members opposite say, well, we only talk and did nothing. The member for Diego Martin North, he said that in his statement. He said the government of 2010-15 only talk. That is what he said. But we gave better compensation. We gave office. We got staff. It is now that the councillors have problem paying their rent, because central government is not releasing money to pay the rents for offices. Madam Speaker, as I said before, my experience with local government, I reached a point many years ago where I don't even ask councillors to help to do nothing. Because I will get the same answer. They don't have resources. They can't help. And in our system of government, all of us here as elected members, on whatever side, when people come to you, it is the problems that bother them. It is a street light. It is the drain. Madam Speaker, I've had this experience where you could come to Parliament and deliver, some grand speech for 75 minutes. The next day, the newspaper carries your speech. Thank you. Madam Speaker, you make news on the hour, by the hour. And after all of that, the fellow will come up to you and say, boss, what about that drain we talked about last month? Because that is important. It's not the 12 o'clock news. What is important is the drain. And we are proud that they called us the box drain government, because we fixed and we fixed and we fixed. Lights, street lights. So today, I ask the government a simple question. You are speaking so highly about devolving power to local government bodies. They must take control and do this and do that, and they must have the power, they must have the resources, they must have everything, and we beat the chest. Why are you setting up a company called Secondary Roads Company with $100 million for? Why are you setting up that at the central government? If that is to fix secondary roads. Secondary roads are under the municipal corporations. So why are you setting up a company for the central government to get involved in fixing the trace and the branch trace, while today you speak about liberation, of local government reform, but you're going about with $100 million plus, and it will be much more, to pave roads in the municipal corporation. So what, you don't trust them to do that? Madam Speaker, these are serious matters. And this country cannot continue. Enough is enough. And Madam Speaker, tomorrow, the 24th, is an important day. It was the 24th of May 2010 that this country was liberated from an earlier incarnation of the PNM. So we celebrate that tomorrow and look forward to our next celebration. Madam Speaker, on this matter of local government before us, I have dealt with this municipal police and the importance of local government, the Siparia market. The issue of paving roads and so on, paving roads, is a critical issue. When people come to your office, I will say, Madam Speaker, out of 10 persons with a complaint, 5, 6 will be about roads and drainage together. Some job, some other infrastructure and so on, water, electricity and so on. But it will be road paving, it will be fixing roads and so on. And that is an important issue. This bill before us, this report, Madam Speaker, will not change anything. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but when you have been wrong a lot, you hear a lot, you see a lot. And we hear the same talk too at times. But this doesn't change it, because if you don't have bitumen, if you close a refinery and you don't produce bitumen, whether central government or local government, nobody could pave road. How you paving a road with the executive council? You can't pave road, you have to have bitumen. And if you close the refinery, you have none. And it is expensive to bring from Europe, to bring from Jamaica and Suriname. So less roads will be paved. The executive council don't change that. And they have set up in this bill as well, this criteria of having the chief officers and so on. A few minutes left to me, man. So I just want to ask something. The Minister of Finance came and said, I think he just pulled this from a hat and pull it down from the sky. He says $30 million per corporation for infrastructure arising from property tax. Where he got that from? Which study? Because it is the property tax, some residential taxes that they intend to put to municipal corporation. But have you done a study to tell us the residential properties in Mayaro as opposed to Diego Martin, the residential property value and estimated collection of taxes in the Port of Spain City Corporation as opposed to the Princestown Regional Corporation? Have you done that? How you know it's $30 million? Because clearly, properties have different values in different parts of the country. There are some areas under local government where it might be, the majority of the area might be a lot of forestry. Might be forestry. You're not taxing forestry to give them the money for development. Whereas if you look at a corporation, whether it's Diego Martin or Rima somewhere, may have a lot of residential properties. So while you talk about equality, this system that you are introducing could perpetuate inequality. By telling these different corporations what you get from residential taxes, keep it and use it. So one group have $10 and the next group have $100. So you perpetuate the inequality. So you have to look at that and revise it. And could we not think of a system where, based upon scientific social studies, work in terms of poverty, in terms of population, in terms of projected development, we come with some formula where the various corporations would have a certain percentage, not below something, if you know what I mean, not below something. So if you are Sandy Grande Regional Corporation, San Fernando City Corporation, Cuba, Chaguanas, etc., there must be some scientific basis to tell us that we must have a situation where Sandy Grande must not have less than something for their development. Port of Spain must not have less than something, based upon scientific data. But the Minister of Finance is a stranger to scientific data. He comes and pulls from a hat $30 million for everybody and all your vex. But where did that come from? I read his speech about 2 or 3 times, painfully. I didn't see any reference to any study, any work done at the Ministry of Local Government and so on to suggest that they have a scientific basis for providing revenue. And revenue is the issue. Madam Speaker, when we were in office, local government bodies got much more revenue. And they were able to do a lot of work. We did not have this type of complaint about flooding and about roads and about street lights and so on. In fact, in fairness to the government before, Madam Speaker, under Mr. Manning, that government introduced a very comprehensive street lighting program where all the local and rural areas got street lights, and we continued that program, National Street Lighting Program. We continued it and increased the subvention to that. That brought some development. And in the context of crime, Madam Speaker, in rural areas, you have to get into a massive comprehensive street lighting program to just combat the movement of criminal elements in some form or fashion, apart from CCTV camera not working and so on. Local government has to play some role, and the street lighting program, need to expand itself to deal with that. So, Madam Speaker, without resources, there will be no delivery of goods and services. You can change what you want in terms of the institution, call somebody counselor today, call them executive member tomorrow, make them full-time, part-time. I mean, I give my views on that already, but I imagine full-time members should have more time to commit to their constituents, their members of their electoral district. The full-time member will also commit to working harder in the councils and so on, and on the street, in the communities and so on. So there is an advantage in the modern system of government to that as well, to having full-time. Many persons here, of course, are also products of the local government system, and certainly on this side of the house, we are very blessed to have several local government practitioners formally who bring to bear an enormous experience and know-how in understanding some of these matters. Madam Speaker, in closing, I just think I have about 2 or 3 minutes left by my calculation. Yes, about 3 minutes. Madam Speaker, the one area that local government has been able to assist with is this area of disaster management, of managing crises, whether they be natural, they be man-made, they be whatever. And there is a case to be made for strengthening the resources and the human resource capacity of local government bodies to respond to local problems. For example, erosion, sea erosion, is a major issue in the context of climate change. And therefore, councils that find themselves on the perimeter of the Atlantic Ocean or the Caribbean Sea, wherever it is, those councils need to be given some type of consideration to deal with disaster management, to deal with climate change, and deal with matters like these. But you see, you cannot run this thing on a two-track where, on the one hand, you give lip service to local government, and on the next hand, you put a central company to pave secondary roads. That is the mismatch in terms of policy objectives. I would have liked to see that $100 million that they're going on the secondary given to local government corporations to deal with potholes. With potholes. Madam Speaker, this morning I'm coming here. I'm driving myself. And Madam Speaker, just on one of the streets of the parliament here, if you go there in that hole, you mash up front end, axle, shocks, everything. And this is Port of Spain next to the parliament. I don't know where this falls or not, but Madam Speaker, even in the city, no, I'm not saying that the city must always be a benefit apart from rural country. But there was a time when you complain about potholes, you complain only in rural areas. Today, Madam Speaker, if you go to that street where HDC is and so on, if you go around the Red House and you travel, they're at the deepest pothole. They're looking like you could put down a fish broth or something inside there. It is a terrible state. This will not change that. And Madam Speaker, the final point I'll raise, because I don't want to repeat anything said before, but and the member for Laventille West, well, he didn't deal with security. I didn't expect him to deal with housing. As a matter of housing, we boast that housing is an area in developed countries, that local government has certain control over that and so on. Why don't we introduce a system as well where the local government corporations can have some type of legal authority to participate in housing development? Build their housing stock, distribute their housing stock according to some central determined policy. And that will take the load off the HDC. It will take the load out of central government, that local government can get involved in a housing stock in partnership with central government and clearly under the framework of a national policy. And you can prevent a lot of these things, a lot of the duplication, a lot of the crises, and a lot of the complaints you hear about distribution of housing stock and distribution of units and so on. So, Madam Speaker, with those few words, it wasn't my intention, like the member for Laventille West, but I hope I at least add something to the table, unlike the member for Laventille West. Thank you.
Member for Laventille East, move on.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to partake in this debate on the miscellaneous provisions under the Local Government Reform Bill 2020. I'd just like to speak basically on a few things that the previous speaker would have raised. One of which would have been the concept of the councils. Now, the councils, he referred to it in parallel as a mini cabinet, you know, and the member would have spoken about how mini cabinets may not work. But the only thing that wouldn't work is if the persons that comprise the cabinet, they are at fault. And when the nation or the people realize persons that they elected are at fault, what they do, they vote them out. So there's an accountability for persons who are elected and who form part of this council in terms of their performance. And to me, that says something, because with persons who are elected having that authority to build and form policies and direction to where you're going, there stands an opportunity for the persons that vote you in. There stands an opportunity for persons to actually receive the expectations that they would have questioned you and asked you for, because they would have your input in mind when they present to the council. And I think that's a very powerful thing. So I agree, it is semblance and parallel to a mini cabinet. But what I don't agree with is that some cabinets that may have failed before, that you expect all of them to fail, and that cannot be fair to the elected members on either side. I have been having several meetings within my different communities, and my councillors are there to support me. And a number of issues, if not most of the issues, consist of local government issues. Now imagine a councillor that need the support of a CEO and the engineers and how they operate to be able to give the service to their burgesses, as opposed to a councillor being able to speak to his or her burgesses and be able to bring representation to council and formulate policies that would support the concepts or the solutions that persons would bring. So, for example, persons would complain about employment, or they may complain about certain services that are available within their community. And the council then has the authority or the power or the ability to then incorporate more local content within the services that are given. And this can be different with every corporation, because the logistics, the issues, the planning may very well be different. So one issue that one corporation might experience would be different to another. So in terms of, let's say, for example, there's an issue with elderly persons. they may be able to do considerable training under their remit for elderly care, and also incorporate within their services some system where the persons that are trained can also provide the service within the community. Additionally, the local contractors can also play more of a role within the development of the community. And this is a problem I know that we experience in our municipal corporation. A number of local contractors are begging their councillors, their representatives, to allow them to have a greater input in the development of their community. And this is what the council is all about. The council is there to formulate, to advise, to make changes in the policies that will benefit the community. And I don't understand how we cannot support something like this. This will bring economic development. It will bring trust. It will bring confidence that when you elect someone, that the policies, the systems are there that they can deliver to you. You know, so I fully support the parallel system of the mini cabinet, as my friend from Oakridge East would have raised, and I'm sure other members on the side also support it too. The member also spoke about the councillors being on a full-time basis. And if a young councillor gives his time and his life to service, that it may prevent him from having personal development. And I'm saying that when we give our lives and our time, and the member himself would have indicated he gave service 20-something years. And I commend anybody that sits in this house that has given the sacrifice to serve their community, to give service for a better Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm saying the full-time basis mean that you are able then to give more of your time, to focus more of your energies, to give more of your ideas to the people that elected you. And this can only be something good. And additionally, the council that is there that can bring specialists to support the decisions of the council. So it doesn't mean that the person would not have the ability to develop into different specialist skills. It will allow the person to have development in management skills, in interpreting issues and challenges that they experience within the community, and translate that into new policies and new directions with the support of specialist skills that they could bring from the outside to ensure that in moving forward, the corporation functions much better and much more efficient. And that is something we must be able to support. That is something to support. The member also spoke a bit about the crime and the municipal police. And I would like to say that I'm not clear too much on how the current structure is now. But what I can say is, because now all the reporting goes to the council, the whole operation and the strategies of the municipal police and even their communication between the community police can now be strategized in a much better, more effective way, because the strategies will come from the person serving, and the person serving will bring the ideas from the people that are on the ground. And this is the most important thing of this particular bill, and we must understand that. And I cannot see why we wouldn't support it. I listen carefully throughout the whole debate, and all I am saying is this thing would make a significant difference in the goods and the services that are provided to persons within Trinidad and Tobago. The member spoke about without resources, there's no ability to provide goods and services. There's no argument there, and which is why the part where persons are now able to collect the property tax and get the resources from the property tax so that they can now plan how they spend their stuff. And to question the amount of money that the property tax will bring, obviously it will vary within the different corporations. But what the minister would have given would have been an average. And I'm saying that any supplement of resources is something that is welcome within the corporation. We have all stood here and we all spoke about the challenges that the corporation experience. We all spoke about the limitations that they have because of the lack of resources. We all spoke about that. So why are we not going to support something that will give the corporation more resources to deliver services, goods and services to the people, their burgesses, and the nation by extension? Why are we not supporting this? We as a people, a nation, have the ability now to craft legislation to give Trinidad and Tobago a better product. We are a growing nation, we are a developing nation, we are a maturing nation, and we have the ability to give Trinidad and Tobago a better product, to give the persons that you vote a better system to work with, to deliver better to you. Let us not keep this back. Let us support it. Let us make the councillors, regardless of who you represent, give them more autonomy to give the people of Trinidad and Tobago a fair share in what they deserve. Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to make this very short contribution.
Member Farouk Maloney.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have listened attentively to members on both sides of the House as they have crafted their debate in relation to this particular report and this bill that is before the House. Madam Speaker, it is very interesting that a number of the speakers opposite continue to prosecute the case as they made the case in their minority report, that there was still the need for more consultation, and additionally, that there was still the need for us to continue to discuss this legislation that is before us. Madam Speaker, we have said consistently that this particular piece of legislation is one that has in fact been discussed on numerous occasions. Madam Speaker, we have been talking about local government reform for many years. In fact, since 1927, as I said very clearly when I presented the report of the Joint Select Committee, this has been a discussion that has been ongoing for several years. And Madam Speaker, even though I have heard those on the other side in particular talk about the issues of property tax, the creation of an executive council, the equity in population, geographic size, and the allocation of resources, the issue of a recognized majority union, and insufficient consultation. In fact, Madam Speaker, every response on the government side has effectively debunked these claims that were made by those opposite. In fact, Madam Speaker, we want to put on record again that the report, through the mechanism of ensuring that we had consultation even before the bill was brought, that we had consultation even whilst the issues were being brought to the House, and Madam Speaker, even the fact that in the 11th Parliament, the work of the Joint Select Committee was asked to be used by the Joint Select Committee of the 12th Parliament. It was clear, Madam Speaker, that we had had numerous opportunities for consultation. The report itself was very, very clear in outlining all the opportunities that were allowed and that presented themselves to the members of the Joint Select Committee. So, Madam Speaker, without a shadow of a doubt, I take this opportunity to debunk that claim that there was not sufficient consultation. We had a claim, Madam Speaker, from the member for St. Augustine, who said that the PNM in government never did anything for local government. And Madam Speaker, that was one of the most laughable statements that was made by any speaker on the opposite side. The only thing that those oppositors tried to do was when in 2013, they introduced what was in effect a form of proportional representation. And as a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, it really backfired on them, because they thought that by putting this in place, they would enhance their possibilities at the local government polls. In fact, Madam Speaker, they got the licking of a lifetime, and they are yet to recover from that mistake that they made as they attempted to make a change to the local government system by introducing a system of proportional representation. And Madam Speaker, we have lived to tell the tale that that certainly has worked in the interest of the People's National Movement. Madam Speaker, the member for Chaguanas East again raised the issue of further consultation, and I have debunked that, Madam Speaker. The member for Barataria San Juan raised the issue of a certain level of independence that should be allowed between the local government, municipal corporations, and the Minister of Finance. Madam Speaker, it is clear that what this Joint Select Committee sought to do was investigate all the possible ramifications of local government reform and what it would mean for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It is obvious that what we need is a situation where there is a certain level of independence of the municipal corporations. And that, in fact, is what was clearly spelled out by the Minister of Finance, the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Northeast. Madam Speaker, it was made very clear that the issue of property tax, as prosecuted by the member for Diego Martin Northeast and the member for San Fernando East, is one that hinges on the type of independence that we anticipate for the various local government corporations. Because we have said very clearly, and the report is pellucidly clear on this, that the collection of property tax goes toward the corporations. And that is how they will become more independent and be able to use these taxes that they collect on properties to be able to give their burgesses exactly what is needed. In many instances, Madam Speaker, we have seen a situation that has developed where corporations have said that they need more money to do more, and in many instances, because of the fact that there is the need to ensure that the national pie is divided as equally as possible, that some corporations, or perhaps all corporations, suffer from a lack of funding. But Madam Speaker, we are of the clear view that once the property tax is collected, once the corporations are allowed to collect for their various, for the uses to which property tax will be put, that this in fact will work in their favor. Madam Speaker, the other issues that were brought to our attention was the issue of salary. For years, there has been an extensive debate on the terms and conditions for local government representatives as recommended by the Salary Review Commission. As most representatives have argued that their work is not recognized, that it is a part-time form of representation, and that most, if not all, councillors are of the firm view that they should be more properly compensated, and that a certain value should commensurate with the type of work that they do should be afforded to them in their compensation and in their package. Madam Speaker, I was surprised to hear the member for Pointe-a-Pierre, indicate that the cabinet will be making the decision with regard to salaries for local government representatives. And Madam Speaker, we all know that the salaries of local government representatives are dealt with by the Salaries Review Commission. So it was passing strange that that should attract the attention of the member for Pointe-a-Pierre. And Madam Speaker, it is clear that what the report indicates is that there is need for better pay for local government representatives. It is clear that the intention is to attract qualified, even more qualified people to the service of local government, and consequently, we're of the firm view that the report is accurate in that this is the direction that local government is to proceed. Madam Speaker, the mechanism that has been brought to our attention that is definitely needed for us to ensure that we move assiduously in this direction is this report that has the support of the majority, and when I say the majority, of the members who sat on the Joint Select Committee, in that the PNM members signed this report, the independent members signed, and it was only those in opposition who did not sign the report. Madam Speaker, for far too long we have been clamoring for better representation and for greater efficiency in local government. Madam Speaker, today is that day. That day has finally come. Many posited that that day would never come, but Madam Speaker, I am proud to have sat in that committee in the 11th Parliament, in the 12th Parliament. I commend the members who sat on that committee. And Madam Speaker, today, we of the People's National Movement fulfill yet another one of our campaign promises to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and we continue the work of building a new society, according to the Honourable Member for Diego Martin West, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Honourable members, the question is that this House adopt the report of the Joint Select Committee on the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Bill 2020. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. The report is therefore adopted.
Government Business, Bill, second reading.
Member for Roodal Moonilal.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 66-4, I beg to move that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504, the Burial Grounds Act, Chapter 3050, the Cremation Act, Chapter 3051, the Advertisements Regulation Act, Chapter 3053, the Recreation Grounds and Pastures Act, Chapter 4101, the Highways Act, Chapter 4801, the Dogs Act, Chapter 6754, the Property Taxes Act, Chapter 7604, and the Planning and Facilitation of Development Act, Number 10 of 2014, be forthwith read a second time.
Honorable members, the question is that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504, the Burial Grounds Act, Chapter 3050, the Cremation Act, Chapter 3051, the Advertisements Regulation Act, Chapter 3053, the Recreation Grounds and Pastures Act, Chapter 4101, the Highways Act, Chapter 4801, the Dogs Act, Chapter 6754, the Property Taxes Act, Chapter 7604, and the Planning and Facilitation of Development Act, Number 10 of 2014, be now read a second time. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504, the Burial Grounds Act, Chapter 3050, the Cremation Act, Chapter 3051, the Advertisements Regulation Act, Chapter 3053, the Recreation Grounds and Pastures Act, Chapter 4101, the Highways Act, Chapter 4801, the Dogs Act, Chapter 6754, the Property Taxes Act, Chapter 7604, and the Planning and Facilitation of Development Act, Number 10 of 2014.
Member for Roodal Moonilal.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as provided by Standing Order 68-1, I beg to move that the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Bill 2020 be committed to the Committee of the Whole to be considered clause by clause.
Honorable members, the question is that the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Bill 2020 be committed to the Committee of the Whole to be considered clause by clause. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. This House will now go into the Committee of the Whole to consider the bill clause by clause. This bill has 11 clauses.
Clauses 1 to 11.
The question is that clauses 1 to 11 stand part of the bill. The question is that clauses 1 to 11 now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Clauses 1 to 11 now stand part of the bill. Honorable members, the question is that the bill be now reported to the House. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. This committee meeting is now adjourned. The House will resume. Member for Roodal Moonilal.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Speaker, I wish to report that the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Bill 2020 was considered in the Committee of the Whole and approved without amendments. I now beg to move that the House agree with the committee's report.
Honorable members, the question is that this House agree with the report from the Committee of the Whole on the Miscellaneous Provisions Local Government Reform Bill 2020. All in favor say aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Member for Roodal Moonilal.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504, the Burial Grounds Act, Chapter 3050, the Cremation Act, Chapter 3051, the Advertisements Regulation Act, Chapter 3053, the Recreation Grounds and Pastures Act, Chapter 4101, the Highways Act, Chapter 4801, the Dogs Act, Chapter 6754, the Property Taxes Act, Chapter 7604, and the Planning and Facilitation of Development Act, Number 10 of 2014, be forthwith read a third time and passed.
Honorable members, the question is that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504, the Burial Grounds Act, Chapter 3050, the Cremation Act, Chapter 3051, the Advertisements Regulations Act, Chapter 3053, the Recreation Grounds and Pastures Act, Chapter 4101, the Highways Act, Chapter 4801, the Dogs Act, Chapter 6754, the Property Taxes Act, Chapter 7604, and the Planning and Facilitation of Development Act, Number 10 of 2014, be forthwith read a third time and passed. All in favor say aye. Any against? The ayes have it.
Mrs. Robinson-Regis. Dr. Rowley.
Aye.
Mr. Imbert.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Dayal Singh. Mr. Al-Rawi.
Aye.
Mrs. Beckles.
Yes.
Mrs. Webster Roy.
Aye.
Ms. Cujo.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Mr. McClatchy.
Yes.
Mr. Cummings.
Aye.
Mr. Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Dino Brega.
Aye.
Mr. Leonce.
Yes.
Mr. Manning.
Aye.
Mrs. Morris Julian.
Aye.
Mr. Scotland.
Aye.
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Abstain.
Mrs. Prasad Bisessa. Oh, sorry. Mr. Charles.
Abstain.
Miss Amin.
Abstain.
Mr. Indar Singh.
Abstain.
Mr. Padarth. Dr. Moonilal. Miss Benjamin. Mr. Rambali.
Abstain.
Could we take the vote in silence? Because I'm not sure what I'm hearing.
You want to take the vote in silence?
Dr. Bodo.
Abstain.
Mr. Ram. Miss Mohit.
Abstain.
Mr. Tanku.
Abstain.
Miss Haynes.
Abstain.
Mr. Rativan,
Abstain.
Dr. Sicharan,
Abstain.
Members, let's take the vote in silence, and I want all members to be aware that interfering with members while they vote can amount to contempt. So let's practice what we know is proper.
Madam Speaker, the results of the division are 20 members voted for, 0 members voted against, and there were 12 abstentions.
Honorable members, on a division with 20 members voting for, no member voting against, and 12 members abstaining, the motion for the third reading of the bill is passed.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504, the Burial Grounds Act, Chapter 3050, the Cremation Act, Chapter 3051, the Advertisements Regulation Act, Chapter 3053, the Recreation Grounds and Pastures Act, Chapter 4101, the Highways Act, Chapter 4801, the Dogs Act, Chapter 6754, the Property Taxes Act, Chapter 7604, and the Planning and Facilitation of Development Act, Number 10 of 2014.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do now adjourn to Friday, the 27th day of May at 1:30 p.m. Madam Speaker, that is Private Members' Day, and I will await the Chief Whip telling us what we'll be doing on that day.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We'll be doing motion number 6 on today's order paper, moved by the member for Princestown.
Honorable members, the question is that this House do now adjourn to Friday, May 27th, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. All in favor say aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to Friday, May 27th, 2022 at 1:30 p.m.